Nigeria's Inspector General of Police Usman Baba is assuring residents of the southeastern region that the police would surmount security challenges in the zone ahead of the next general election. Baba, represented by an Assistant Inspector General of Police Isaac Akimoyode, gave the assurance in Enugu State during the Southeast 2023 Election Security Management Workshop. Well, he says the police is building a robust synergy with other sister security agencies and formations to ensure that the 2023 election is seamless and very peaceful. According to him, the force is brainstorming with other agencies to fashion out ways to deal with existing as well as emerging security threats in the Southeast. The workshop forms part of the Inspector General of Police's reform and upgrade agenda to strengthen and build the capacity of the police, particularly as the country heads into an election year.
The aim of the workshop is to build capacity amongst importantly the police personnel and other security agencies that will be taking part in the conduct of the 2023 general elections. Of course, the police will provide security. And it's not about police alone. When we talk of security, all the other agencies are involved too. The election will be policed not only by police alone, but by other agencies too. You know, everyone has a role to play in the general elections. And by the grace of God, general elections 2023 will be successful and peaceful. Come out to exercise their franchise when the time comes, and the police and other security agencies will do their own bit too.
The conceptualization is in the realm of what the IG thought to be what you call predictive policing. When you have an election that is going to be very, very critical ahead, then you start engaging in what you call trends and patterns of crime. You know, trying to identify those challenges you are likely to confront as you go into the elections. That is why we are drawing on resource from the INEC, we are drawing on resource from the DSS, we are drawing on resource from retired police officers, we are drawing on resource from the academia, where the legal framework of the Police Act will be dissected, and the men should be able to know what the issues they have to deal with. So it's a comprehensive training package, and we also expect that at the end of the training, the officers who have been chosen from both the operational and the strategic level will be able to cascade it down to the divisional police officers, the area command officers, and that way there's sufficient time for them to internalize what are the issues, what are the critical issues, how are they going to deal with them.
All right, Liberos Oshoma joins us now from our Lagos studios to discuss these issues. Very warm welcome, Liberos, to News Night. Now, I mean, good the clarification that INEC, through Festus Okoye, the Commissioner for Voter Education and Information, about transmitting the 2023 general elections electronically. INEC says that has come to stay and there should be no fear or any rumor about manually transmitting the results. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, thank you. When I saw that piece of news, I immediately said this must be fake news. Because INEC ordered the current chairman, Professor Mahmoud Jega, had beat his chest and consistently, assured Nigeria that the new way of conducting election has come to stay. With the elections conducted in Edo, Anambra, Ekiti, and then recently on Osun State. And you find out that despite some of the misgivings and complaints by the political parties, that largely the participants and the people who participated in the process, came out all out to give INEC thumbs up. So when in the heat of preparations for 2023, and then a news item just springs up that INEC is going to conduct election or collate result manually, I definitely knew that must be, somebody testing the waters to see if Nigerians will embrace this. And typical with the new wind that is blowing now, Nigerians actually yearning for something different. Immediately, you know, everybody condemned it, and INEC had to come out so flatly denied it. And that's great. But that does not mean, that's not to say that there are no challenges. We're talking about transmitting election results electronically. INEC had consistently maintained that, you know, they have the capacity to do that across the federation. But we also know that there are security challenges in certain areas. There are also issues of network coverage in some areas. And we also know that some of these network providers, you know, for security reasons and maybe operational reasons, shut down service in certain areas, especially in the north. So all of these, I think, you know, consider against this backdrop, INEC now giving us this assurance should now go back to the drawing board to ensure that some of these areas and challenges that I pointed out that are very, you know, notorious, that everybody is aware of, except those that are watchers of the agencies are not aware of. They should ensure that all of these challenges are taken care of, so that on that day, you don't now come back to these issues that have been denied flatly, and yet you have a situation where you complain about network coverage, and then you are collating result manually in certain areas because of network coverage. Yeah, considering also, given the fact that, you remember in 2018, build up to the 2019 election, INEC came out to say, we have a server. But after the election, the same INEC said there was no server anywhere. So all of this is not just enough to deny. I believe that INEC, you know, considering what they had done, that they will not collate results manually. But that does not mean that there are no challenges. And there will be challenges in certain areas. INEC should try as much as they can to minimize those challenges.
Right. Well, Liberals would have time to really take a look at security, especially as it affects the elections. But, you know, some would say Nigeria in 2022 was still having all this hullabaloo about, you know, just transmission electronically, where a small country as tiny as Namibia, since 2014, the elections have been done electronically. I'm talking voting and everything. You can sit in your home and get that done. But at the end of the day, we're here, and here we are. Section 50, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2022 did speak about the fact that INEC has the absolute power to decide how it will collate votes, especially in areas where there are network challenges. But Liberals, the question is, even though the Electoral Act is clear, as a legal practitioner who has studied the Act, are there loopholes that Nigerians should worry about?
The loopholes really, it's not about the Electoral Act, it's about personnel. Just last week or so, in about a week or two, we had personnel, resident electoral commissioners who had spent 5 years in INEC, you know, bowing out. And as we speak now, National Assembly is on recess. And these are people, some of them have been in INEC for 10 years and have garnered experience. And these are people that, in collaboration, in conjunction with the current chairman, that mooted this idea and that have taken INEC to the level that it is now. All the training, all the experiences that they have garnered, now they have bowed out of INEC. And politicians, when the National Assembly comes back on recess, the president would nominate some members of some resident electoral commissioners that will take over from these persons. Mind you, some of these people, their nomination is going to be influenced by the sitting governors that you currently have. And so when the governors influence in nominations into an electoral body just few months to the election, you don't need to begin to bother too much about the act, but the people that will implement the act. That's where the challenge is. And that's why I think that we were too laid back with this current administration. When they came on board, mind you, it took their time to appoint resident electoral commissioners whose tenure had expired. Even chairman, it took them time to appoint a chairman. So no matter how beautifully crafted a law is, if the people that are going to implement or execute this law are not people of integrity, or people, I'm not saying those that will be appointed are not people of integrity, but or people that will be learning on the job, especially given the critical nature and times we are in as far as election is concerned, then you're going to have a challenge. And then these loopholes can easily be manipulated by the politicians. Let me give you a quick example. Apart from the governorship and the presidential election, all other elections are simple majority. So when you have a resident electoral commissioner who is partisan and he comes on board, he recruits ad hoc staffs from amongst his political parties or his party leaning or as influenced by a governor. The tendency to cause disruptions in areas of the opponent would be there, because at the end of the day, all you just have is vote will come, and who can't vote, the man with the simple majority carries the day. Take the case of the ready case that comes to mind in Lagos. It was the case that happened in Okota, where votes were disrupted, and at the end of the day, people were expecting that a re-election will be conducted in those places. But at the end, nothing happened, people were not prosecuted, and results were counted and results announced. Votes were counted and results announced. So these are some of the challenges, and that's why I am saying that now, what can we do? We have some persons of credibility that have bowed out of INEC. With the experience Ghana, can't Nigeria still make use of these persons? Can the president, for example, instead of having to wait on re-nomination, can't you re-extend the tenure of these persons, considering the integrity and then the experiences and their track record? Somebody like Mike Igini, for example, I will mention him, and then this man from Sokoto, why do we need to allow those persons leave INEC and go with all the trainings and all the investment that we have made on them? That on one side. Then you now come to the issue of the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act that you cited. The issue of electronic transmission of results, basically it rests squarely on provision of network. That is outside, the purview of INEC. They have their IT expert, but if there is no network in these areas and insecurity also challenges, how do you now expect results to be transmitted electronically from those places? So these are some of the challenges that might be there that politicians also can latch on to manipulate the process. The politicians, I can also tell you that this piece of news was actually from the politicians who test the waters.
All right, Liboros, I'm sure you got your ears to the ground too, just like we journalists, right? Okay, you continue to stay with us. We're going on a short break, and when we return, the conversation will continue.
Welcome back to News Night, reaching you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Amaka Ude Walker.
And I am Christian Ogodo.
4 Reverend Sisters of the Catholic Church have been kidnapped on the Okigwe-Enugu Road axis of Imo State. The incident was confirmed on Sunday by Sister Zita Ehidoro, who is the Secretary General of the Sisters of Jesus the Savior. Well, the 4 Reverend Sisters were kidnapped on their way to the morning Mass. The statement gave the names of the 4 kidnapped Reverend Sisters as John Mwodo, Christabel Echemazu, Liberata Mbamalu, as well as Benita Agu. The statement says the women of God were abducted at the Okigwe Umulolo area of the expressway. The Sisters of Jesus is asking all religious faithful to pray for the quick and safe return of the victims. The Okigwe Road has become a haven for kidnappers and armed robbers in recent times, where many people, including the prelate of the Methodist Church of Nigeria, Catholic priests, as well as travelers, have been kidnapped on that same road.
And kidnappers have also abducted 6 persons in Dusima town, headquarters of Dusima local government area of Katsina State. Some of the victims are wedding guests who were abducted at a house close to the residence of a popular musician. Reports say the terrorists initially kidnapped 9 people at Ungua Kudu quarters of the town, but 3 were later released. Residents say incidents of kidnapping in the area is becoming worrisome and wants government to address the situation promptly. Okay, let's continue with our interrogation and with Lagos lawyer Liboros Oshoma is not just a lawyer, but as well as a public affairs analyst in our Lagos studio. Thanks, Liboros. Let's look at security issues now. And the times are not really improving, despite the assurances of the Inspector General of Police, who has assured that in the Southeast, all security challenges will be surmounted. And now we are hearing of the kidnapped of these 4 Reverend sisters. That angle, Okigwe, Owerri, Port Harcourt Express Road is becoming a real trouble spot. Your thoughts here?
It is not recent. It's not just recent. It's always been. If you remember, sometimes last year, remember when some students of Abia State University were kidnapped on their way from Uturu to Owerri. It's quite unfortunate. I listened to the report from by the police on their, I don't know I've forgotten what they called it again, in preparation for the election. And I laughed. I was laughing when I was listening to that report. And I just asked myself, you know, why do we keep deceiving ourselves? It's so obvious. Oh, now you are collaborating and ensuring that you're assuring people, giving them dot courage that the elections in these areas will be transparent, will be heavily monitored. And yet, the same government, be it at the state or at the federal government, cannot curb the menace of kidnapping. And you know, it is so sad. That's why recently I told them, I said on the platform that there is nothing anybody will tell me that this government is hand in glove with kidnappers. I will give you instances. Garba Shehu, in a recent interview, did say that the abductors of the Kaduna Abuja train since March 28 that there were negotiations, open negotiations with them, and that the first was that the ringleader demanded for the release of his wife, who was incarcerated in custody, and then they released the woman because she was pregnant, flew her to a hospital where she delivered a set of twins, and then before she was flown to her parents' house in Maiduguri. Yet the abductors did not release the victims. And then they made another demand that their members who were arrested should be released. The federal government again, headlong, released those members, and yet these same abductors did not release the victim. Thirdly, they now started demanding for money. A spokesperson of the government was bold to say all of this on an international platform to show that the government has, government is doing something about kidnapping. A government that will wait for people to be kidnapped and then only for you to make statements subsequently that no ransom were paid, and then the people will say they paid ransom. So when these things happen, because we are addressing criminality with kid gloves, people are emboldened now to go into kidnapping. It is now more lucrative to kidnap than armed robbery. All you just do, hold your victim hostage, keep them wherever, and at the end of it, negotiate for ransom, money is paid, no arrest is made. Yet, we all have BVN. Yet, we all did NIMS registration. We all did all kinds of registration, and we did SIM card registration also. People are still using SIM card to make calls, to negotiate ransom, and their lines are not traced, their lines are not bad. During the Goodluck Jonathan's time, we heard that 9 local government areas were under siege under the control of Boko Haram. And so the government promised that elections were going to be free and fair. Elections were going to hold in those places. Only a few days for election, they postponed the election. In the same vein, today, the Kaduna State governor had complained to the president that some areas like Beningwari in Kaduna State are under the control of some bandits. Now, the Okigwe Road in between Owerri and Abia, completely, not just today, for long ago had been taken over by kidnappers. The governors have no response to it. The governor of Abia State, that I would not even call a governor. The Imo State governor has consistently, the Supreme Court governor has consistently have running battle in his state. And the up north is a no-go area. And yet, the same government, the IG of police, keep assuring you that elections will hold in these places when you have deployed places where the police could not police on a normal day. You deploy army to police these places. And yet, you are telling me that police will guarantee free and fair elections in these places. Look, the earlier we realize and begin to pressure our government to ensure that the social contract that is signed with us, which is to protect the security and welfare of the people, the earlier we begin to insist and push the government to fulfill these promises, the better for us. Otherwise, if we are waiting that, oh, let this government go, and then the next one will come, the next one will inherit a bigger problem than this, because at the end of the day, it now becomes a norm. And when something becomes a norm, it becomes difficult for you to eradicate that norm. Before, it was lawyers, judges were kidnapped and killed in some places, and now you have reverend fathers and reverend sisters. Who knows who is next? At some point in this country was journalists. So it's frightening. It has gotten to a stage where even to travel from Benin to Ekpoma, Auchi, through Lokoja to Abuja, you need the blood of Jesus. To travel from Lagos to Benin by road, only God knows what you need. Even FA are not smiling, and it is not everywhere you can go by flight. So the earlier we see insecurity, the way we saw Ebola, where every hand was on deck to ensure that it was eradicated, the better for us. Because if you think you are a government official, you can surround yourself with securities. So the people that were kidnapped in the train, Lagos,
they are
the
definitely
Kaduna Abuja
Nigerians
train,
like
a lot
the
of
rest
them
of us.
were
Well, insecurity,
Exactly.
Liberals, is definitely a challenge that I'm sure the government is not sleeping on. But let's clarify something. Governor Ikpeazu is the governor of Abia State, duly elected by his people. So let's just clear that. And of course, irrespective of our sentiments, it is what it is. But you know what, Liberals, while we talk about insecurity and of course the general election coming up in 2023, we've seen reassurances, not just from, the Inspector General of Police. We've seen Lucky Rabo. He's actually made some assurances as well. He says 2023 elections will go on irrespective. And of course, we've seen onslaught. Let's give it to them. The military, we've seen them really hammer down on this non-state actors. But at the end of the day, we cannot ignore the former Chief of Army Staff, General Dambazo, retired, who says insecurity constitutes a major threat to the 2023 elections. Well, you have spoken a lot about insecurity, but at the end of the day, a way forward is what we're looking for here.
Recently, a senior advocate of Nigeria did propose that elections should be postponed because we are in uncharted waters, so that the president will clear the insecurity. And some of us, and including the current chairman body of benchers, insisted that no, that is not part of our constitution. And I completely agree that you can only postpone election where the nation is at war with another nation. So if it is about election, if they like, let them create insecurity. But come May 29, 2023, go, this government must. But the way forward, really, is the fact that the people causing insecurity are not foreigners. So even though some of them are foreigners because of the porous nature of our border, I want to ask this question: if ballot boxes can get to these villages on the day of election, how come we are not able to police and provide security in these places? If we can assure the people that we will protect the ballot in those places, take the ballot boxes there with materials and return them, then how come we are not able to take police down to these places? Is it that we are short of manpower, or is it that the equipment that we do not have? How come the police will boast of drones, yet we have not seen situations where drones are deployed to ensure that security is provided? The office of the citizen is a very important office, because a lot of us just sit back and pray that it won't be my portion. The people that are being kidnapped now are religious people. So if we believe that it will not be our portion, then someday it will be our portion. That's why for me, the solution should be, the citizens should wake up. If it is about organizing vigilantes along these areas, along the villages, the governors also need to wake up. It is not enough to say that the federal government, you don't secure, you don't command any security apparatus. You can organize vigilantes in your areas. You can co-opt. You remember we used to have the civilian JTF. You can co-opt civilians to provide security in collaboration with the police. This also brings me to the issue of decentralizing security. We'll be talking about federal police. Federal police. Is it not high time we also begin to look at how to decentralize security to ensure that these states also take on a responsibility to the capacity that they can provide? A situation where everybody will have to wait for a rabo or wait for the IG of police while people are dying by installment. The citizens should not tolerate it. It's because we're also tolerating it and praying to God for a solution that he has given to us. That is why all of these things are happening. So let's, even village, Buhari in his interview with, President Buhari in his interview with Arise correspondent stated that those days, village heads also were part of providing security. What is happening today? How come we no longer have such arrangement where the villagers, in collaboration with the local government and in collaboration with the state governors, should be able to police and provide security in their areas, in their domain, so that when there is superior firepower, you can now begin to call for police and call for the military.
Yes,
but in the absence of all of
indeed,
that, and we just sit down and fold our hands.
Yes, indeed. We really cannot continue to fold our hands, and that's why the military are really beginning to hit the terrorists and the bandits real hard from air, and the ground forces taking, the lead as well. Thanks so very much, Liboros Oshoma, lawyer and public affairs analyst, for shedding light on the issues of the day on Newsnight. Well, it's time for a short break. We've got plenty more. Stay with us.